Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main stage. I was in with Nikki learning about courses, and I found it absolutely fascinating that just kind of how to position your course and where to put it and the storyboarding of it. So if you're in Nikki's, that's awesome. If you're in Matt's, I missed it, so I will be watching that one on replay for everything today will be coming out after today, and actually it is available right now bottom left, but we'll save that for later because right now I am bringing up possibly, now this is tricky, I know quite a lot of Alans, right? One was my best man at my wedding and the other one I've known for nearly 15 years now, but he likes to be called Al and it makes my life easier. But Al is an absolute legend with an amazing story, all about connecting and stories. I'm not going to say anymore. I'm going to leave it up to him. But Al, welcome along, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I thought you were going to say this. This is my favorite Al, the best Al I know, probably the only Al you know, based on the fact you said everybody else is an Alan. So,
well, that's true. You're definitely my favorite Al, but it's close for kind of first. Right, Alan now. I'll leave you to it. I'll see you in a bit. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Brilliant. Good stuff. Right. Okay. So thanks ever so much for joining me here today. And I don't know about you, but I do know about you because I've been looking at all the comments. And as a result of that, I have found this morning absolutely fantastic and fascinating. And I love the connections that we've been making all the way through the day. I think it's been brilliant already. The supportive nature of everybody has been fantastic. And that to me is what all of this stuff is all about. And positioning me earlier, Alan said that that I was going to talk about connecting with an audience and the gift of story. And I'm going to share some of those sort of bits and pieces because that to me is what everything is all about. So I'm not going to share any slides. I think that then I'm going to see if I can actually carry this off. And the reason for it, or one of the reasons for it, is because what I found really, really fascinating is obviously I had an idea of the things that I was going to talk about and how I was going to talk about them and so on and so forth. But this morning, I've been scribbling so many notes, I could almost just spend my whole 20 minutes talking about the things that I've seen this morning. And I find that fascinating itself because like many of us, I am and always have been passionate about personal development, about growth, about performance and performance improvement, and all these sort of bits and pieces. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and how this all happened. And one of the reasons why I'm not bringing up slides and all the rest of it is because, some of the things that I share and the way that I share them is more about telling these stories and letting you find the things that resonate with you rather than saying, this is the way to do this and this is the way to do that, because my style and approach is not all about that. And the example I give with regards to that is that there's a whole lot of experience in this room, from the levels of time and energy and effort that people have been putting into to master their craft, to learn things that they're really, really good at. So for me to stand here and to suggest that I am going to teach you something new is probably a little arrogant, and I didn't want to try and do that. So what I am going to do is I'm going to hopefully put us in an environment in which we choose to learn, and that's a slightly different perspective. And the way that I sort of explain this and demonstrate this is that today so far is all about sharing ideas. And I love that because if I've got a pound and you've got a pound, and I give you my pound and you give me your pound, we've each still got a pound. But if I've got an idea and you've got an idea, and I give you my idea and you give me your idea, we now both have two ideas. So that to me is what we take away from today. We take away that opportunity to pick other people's brains, take some ideas away, and then more importantly, do something with them. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that as I go along. So as I said, passionate about personal development, about growth and performance improvement. As you may see in the background there in a little bit of a blur, I grew up in Australia, love Australia, got a great grounding in Australia, have a very Australian way of looking at things. So it'll all be all right, mate, that type of stuff. And and that was really important to me. That was part of my story. When I came back to England, I was in my mid-teens. I say back because my parents came back. They were £10 poms, went out to Australia, on the £10 sort of principle. I had a bit of a tough time as we were sort of coming up through. But we came back when I was in my mid-teens, and I was that stereotypical Australian guy, bleached blonde hair down to my shoulders and sort of this laissez-faire attitude, and ended up in a small village in Gloucestershire. So I didn't stand out much. So that was always intriguing. But like I said, my dad was always into personal development and performance, and he became quite a successful businessman before studying NLP and counseling, and became a clinical hypnotherapist and all these sort of bits and pieces. So the first proper book that I ever read when I was 8 years old was How to Win Friends and Influence People. And then by the time I was 15, I'd read thousands of books. I mean, genuinely hundreds, if not thousands of books. And now, many, many, many years later, if I spun my camera around, you'd see bookcase after bookcase after bookcase of these type of books, from biographies to development books to all these sort of bits and pieces. So storytelling and stories have been part of my life all the way through since a young age. So, as I say, came back and I was offered a choice. I was offered a choice by my parents at 16. It was summer holidays, and they turned around and said, hey, look, you either go on and do your A-levels, you can get yourself a job, or you can work for us. But after the summer holidays, you've got to be doing something. And they had a pub at the time, and it was all fine. Well, I knew I didn't want to work with them. The A-level thing was starting to sort of look at me. I was starting to look, like I said, I stood out like a sore thumb. I was not really sure which direction I wanted to go there. Some things had changed in my life that made it not necessarily as appealing as I wanted it to be initially. So I thought I'll go and get myself a job. And I go to the careers office, and I'm sitting there and I'm doing all these psychometric tests, and I'm having all these fascinating questionnaires to complete, and I'm interviews with various people, and they said, wow, you're a people person, you're really interested in performance, you're fascinating about you're very creative, you come at these things from different angles from what we've seen before, you've got a different outlook on life, we've got the perfect thing for you, how about a YTS at the Co-op? To which I went, brilliant, no idea what that is, but okay, let's do that. It was a short, sharp shock when I realized that I was only going to get 27 quid a week, but hey, it was the 80s. It's all fine. So I did that for a period of time. I went up through the ranks. I did pretty well for myself. And by the time I was in my late teens, I was ready to move on. And as I say, really, really had an attitude of, I love people. I love understanding what made people tick. I was really curious about what was going on out there. So I did what every person in that sort of scenario would do, and I got myself really into sales. And to be fair, I sold lots and lots of stuff. I had to sell my house, my car, and my furniture because I couldn't afford to keep them, because I wasn't actually selling any of the stuff that I should have been selling. And I had this job that was in the financial services sector that was all about giving financial advice and guidance and help to people to achieve certain things, which I thought would tick all my boxes. And but I just wasn't getting on with it. It just wasn't gelling. It wasn't vibing with me. So I went to my manager and I turned around and I said, this isn't working. 6 months in, this isn't working. I need to leave. Here's my notice. And he was a brilliant manager because he took it. And which I found really, really fascinating, and in the way that he responded, because it was all my problem. Now, the best selling I'd seen up to that point was his selling, which was actually, the only saw it once, and that was in the interview for the job, because he sold me this job. He sold me this dream of all the things that I was going to have and achieve, and what expectations I would have, and they never sort of came to fruition. So I took it. So I was on sort of downtime, as it were, while I was killing time working my notice. And one of the other managers came along to me and he saw me at the coffee machine and he turned around and said, "I understand that you're leaving." And I said, yeah, I'm out of here. I'm not very good at this. And he said, "Come and have a chat with me." And he turned around and he took me through this little chat. We were having a coffee, and he just turned around and said, "So when you first took this job, what were you expecting? What were you trying to achieve? What did good look like for you?" And I told him all about these things, and he said, "So how are you working in relation to that? Where are you in relation to those sort of things? Where would you say on a scale of 1 to 10, these various bits and pieces? What are you achieving? What are you not?" And I took him through that, and he said, "Well, if I could help you to go from here to here, what do you think about that?" And I went, "Well, yeah, I'd be happy with that." He said, "Well, give me a go and come into my team and let's see how we get on." So I said, "Okay, but I can't sell." He said, "Well, just do what I do." And I said, "But I've never seen you sell." He said, "You just did." And I went, "What?" He said, "Selling is simple. It's not easy, but it is simple." He said, "You find out what your customers want and you give it to them. Give enough customers what they want and you'll get what you want." And I thought, that's brilliant. What does that mean? How do you do that? And then he took me through his process. He said, "Stop focusing on what you want initially. Start finding out about your customers." So I went away and had a bit of a think about this. I'm one of these kind of guys that sits there and maps it all out. And I came up with this really, really technical approach to selling that I had to explain to my customers at the beginning of every conversation. And I would sit there and I would say, "Right, okay, Mr. Customer, this is what we're going to do." And I would draw an A and I put it in a circle. I draw a B and I put it in a circle. And then I draw an arrow from one to the other. And I'd say, "This is really dead simple. This is where you are now. This is where you want to be. And this is the action that you need to take in order to get you there. My job is to help you to define where you are now, where you want to be, and then to make suggestions and recommendations on what those actions are and hold you to them. But at the end of the day, they're your actions. It's your commitment. It's what you want. How bad do you want that?" And I went through this whole process with them, and we told stories. I got them to tell me the story of their goals, their dreams, their aspirations. I got them to tell me the story of where they are now and how that was making them feel and why this other stuff was so important to them. And I got them to tell me the story of how committed they were to take this action and why they were going to be prepared to do it. So we did that. Funnily enough, after a period of time, I got quite good at it, and I got promoted, and I took on a team. And I thought all I need to do is I need to show everybody the A to B process, tell them that that's all what they need to do, and I would be, a top sales manager within a very short period of time. And interestingly enough, it didn't work. And the reason that I realized, again, sat down, did my analysis, reason I realized really, really quickly was because I wasn't connecting with them. I was telling them. I wasn't asking them. I was telling them. I was directing them. I was showing them all these sort of bits and pieces. So I stripped it back and I got back into this connection piece. And the connection was I needed to follow the A to B process. The difference was I just have different customers now. The customers were my team. So once again, I had to sit down with them and go, "So tell me about your B. What was important to you? What are you trying to achieve? How are you trying to achieve it? Where are you now in relation to it? What actions do we need? Do we need to look at training? Do we need to look at coaching? Do we need to look at support? Do we need to give you some additional resources? Do we need to give you some more information? What is it that we're trying to fix here?" And that was always where my fundamentals started. So after a period of time, I got promoted into quite a senior position within these organizations, and I was literally traveling the country. I remember I was given a company car and I was told that you keep it for 3 years or 100,000 miles with whichever came first. And I gave my car back after 9 months with 108,000 miles on it because I was literally just traveling the country, hotel to hotel to hotel. And now, all of these are stories. All of these are little bits of information that I was telling myself. I was telling myself I was a rubbish salesperson. I was telling myself I was a good salesperson. I was telling myself these things. They're all stories. But I had this scenario where I checked into a hotel, came out the next morning, and my car had been broken into. And I literally had everything I owned in my car and everything was gone. I mean, everything was gone. So I went from one hotel where I walked in with bags and sort of bits and pieces to the next hotel where I walked in with a newspaper. And I sat there, and my boss called me. And this boss called me, and he turned around and he said, um, after a little bit of checking in with me, and he knew I was really flat, and he knew I was on the edge, and I knew that this is probably putting me to the point where I didn't really want to be doing what I was doing anymore. And he turned around and he said, one day you're going to look back on this and laugh. And I said, yeah, probably. And he gave me the best bit of advice I've ever heard, and I've used this principle for ever since. And he said, why wait? And funnily enough, I laughed, and he said, yeah, you're right. And I use that why wait with me all the time. And I use it with my kids. I've got 3 lovely daughters, and we've talked about a number of things. And instead of the conversations about what do you want to be when you grow up, I've talked about, so what do you want to be? And they'll say, I want to be an author. I want to be a this. I want to be a that. I want to be a dress designer. I want to be all the bits and pieces they've done. And I've gone, why wait? If you want to be an author, start writing. You're an author now, right? So there's those sort of bits and pieces that sort of came out. Shortly after that, I took the why wait principle to heart, and I started my own business. I left the company. And I started my own business, and I had at the core of it the A to B process. I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people to achieve the things that they wanted to achieve. And my A to B principle was very simple, to say, I will help you get you from where you are now to where you want to be, faster than if you tried to do it on your own. And that was the heart of my coaching. My coaching was about tell me a story. My coaching was about make it come to life for me. My coaching was about ask, don't tell. I was all about asking questions. I was naturally curious, and I wanted to stay curious. We heard in the sessions this morning, know your customer. I was passionate about knowing my customer. I was passionate about understanding what really made them tick and what it was all about. So that was really, really important to me. And we took this principle, and again, I then sort of have at Infinite Pi, we have this simple principle of do stuff that matters with people who count in places that inspire. So do stuff that matters is about finding, avoiding the distractions. Okay. We can all get distracted with things, and it's about understanding what really matters, what's going to make the difference. And I'll give you a really, really quick story if I can. And that's this story about processionary caterpillars. And it was a situation where there was a guy at a university who was given some funding to study processionary caterpillars. Yep, like you, I have no idea how they get the money for these things, but they did. Anyway, so processionary caterpillars do exactly what it says on the tin. They literally follow one another. And he turned around and he was studying them in lots of different ways. And it got to the Friday afternoon, and he sat there and he put all these processionary caterpillars in a big circle around a flower pot, massive big flower pot, puts them all around, lifts the flower pot out of the way, and then he puts pine nuts in the middle of this circle. And as a result of that, he turns around and he says, that's their favorite food. I'm going to see what happens. And he goes away for the weekend, comes back on the Monday, and he sees all of these processionary caterpillars on their back, legs in the air, dead. Died of starvation 6 inches away from their favorite food. And all his assistants were going, oh no, the experiment didn't work. We don't know. And he said, it worked perfectly. He said, I've come to the conclusion that processionary caterpillars don't know the difference between activity and productivity. And I wonder how many of us are in the same boat. We can be permanently active and busy and doing things, but are we being productive? Are we doing the stuff that matters? With people who count, who are our connections? Who do we need in our circle? Who do we need supporting us, cheerleading us, guiding us? What customers are we looking for? What partners and suppliers do we have that help us to achieve the things that we do? And the places that inspire is all about our mindset. It's all about the environment that we're creating that sets us up for success. And that's where all of this stuff that I've gone on to do. I hosted the Infinite Pi Connection podcast many years ago and it all started from running a massive project that I was doing for a bank. And one of the team members was talking about how many LinkedIn connections he had. And he was literally collecting the numbers, not connecting with the numbers, because it was all about what he was trying to achieve to hit a goal. And I said, but behind every number is a person. Behind every like is a person. Behind every retweet is a person. Get to know those people. The Connection podcast went really, really well. I've started a new podcast now. That one sort of stopped a number of years ago. I started a new podcast now called Infinite Pi Thinking, because it's all about our thinking. If we improve my coaching principle is if we improve our thinking, we improve our performance. So think about our thoughts. So we tell thought-provoking stories on there. And as a result of that, and I'm wrapping this up now, but as a result of that, the conversations, the style and the approach that I have in speaking with some remarkable guests. I mean, I've been very lucky to speak with some world champion athletes, some award-winning entrepreneurs and OBEs and so on and so forth, all these sort of various bits and pieces, some very, very senior business leaders and artists and creatives, and Alan and Emily, of course. So some really incredible people. And people started reaching out to me and said, I've got a story to tell. And we came up with a new service called the Gift of Story. And this is what Alan was alluding to earlier. The Gift of Story is all about people reaching out to me, and I provide this service now where they get to share their story for the people who count to them. So this isn't putting out to the wide world. So I have spoken with grandparents who want to share their story, capture this on an audio version for their future generations before their memories fade. They tell stories of their childhood. I've spoken with parents of new babies. The baby in one instance was sitting there with a month old, because that's going to be the 18th birthday present of that child, to let them know what mum and dad were feeling and experiencing at that time, not a look back on it, what they were experiencing at the time. I've spoken with a senior leader within an organization that's retiring, and we did a series of audios in which they broke it down into their work life and their experience to share with those that they were leaving behind. So remember, all of the stuff that we're doing, all of the things that we're trying to achieve here, they're all stories. Everybody has one. There's pivotal moments in there. There's opportunities in there. There's challenges. There's things that we're facing. And at some point, my role, and I know some of you will resonate with this, my role and the role I see in all of this, if you think about storytelling, there's often the hero's journey. Somebody goes off on a quest. Somebody goes off on a mission. Somebody goes on an adventure. We've all got one of those, right? At least one. We face challenge. We face obstacles. It's at that point you think of Yoda and Star Wars. You think of Mr. Miyagi and the Karate Kid. I can name loads of them. The guide, the mentor, the coach appears. That's my role. My role isn't to be the hero in the story. My role is to be the guide, the coach, and the mentor. We overcome those challenges. We face those challenges through self-awareness, through self-analysis. We set a plan in action, and we make progress on that mission. And that, to me, genuinely is the gift of story. So, Alan, I'm happy. And you're muted again.
Hold on, where's my mug?
There you go.
Thank you so much, Al. It is always appreciated. And obviously, I mean, it's the reminders, isn't there? That we've got the reminder of people and connection. Again, that has to be the core takeaway from today, the Digital Circus Live. But the why wait, there was definitely a bit of why wait, love it going on in the chat. So you're right, and we're very much similar mindset with our kids. Lydia Rose, our 8-year-old, is already on her second business idea.
Brilliant.
The first one was Relax with Lydia Rose. And the second one is she's building a T-shirt design business. So she's been working on that. Right, Al, thank you, mate. We are now into lunch. So from 12:30 to 1:30, the networking and the expo booths are open. So you can go into them and network to your heart's content, or have lunch, or do some work. Who wants, this is work, do this, stay here. So that's what we're at. And then 1:30. Now, everything is awesome today, but it's fair to say that in the build-up, the 2 workshops at 1:30 were 2 of our most popular. We've got Marcin, the global trainer for MailerLite email platform, and Danielle talked about how important email was as part of her TikTok adventure this morning. At the same time, we have Danielle talking about videos. So I don't know who you're going to choose between MailerLite and Marcin and Danielle, but good luck with making that decision. And I will see you in one of those sessions, or networking beforehand, or in a booth if I pop in. Right. Thank you so much, everyone. See you at 1:30. Thanks again, Al.